Hello people, sorry for the noise, but I'm taking some old candles and I'm melting them down, and I have to melt them down one by one because different waxes don't mix very well. So I've got my one container over here and I'm mixing them hot in here so they're all liquid by the time they get over here. And then I'm straining them out, so any debris or anything like that is going to be out of it. So this is how I do that, and this is a very, very, very thin coffee filter. And you can see some of the debris that it's already caught. So this is how we do it. And in order to melt the waxes together, you have to melt the candles separately and make them all into an oil first, and then you can mix the hot oil together. So this is how I'm doing that. So far I've got about 4 or 5 candles done, and we'll be making some new pillar candles out of it. Alright, I'll be back when that's done. So I've got all the wax melted, it's cleaned out, it's strained. Now I've put these in these bread tins, put them in the fridge. Now they're going to cool, and they'll be able to be used for candles a little bit later when I make pillar candles. Alright, I'll be back. So I'm going to be showing you guys how you can make your own pillar candles from scrap materials that you have. So first thing that you're going to want to do is find a plastic plate. Next thing you're going to want to do is get some kind of a nail like this. And what I did that found out really worked well is I heated up the end and held onto it right about there. So when the heat got to my fingers, it's like, oh, it's a bit warm. Then pushed the nail right through. And that made a nice little hole in the center of my plate, which you will need. That's going to anchor the bottom of your wick to the bottom of your candle. So there are many different methods you can use to do that. You can use a nail, you can use like hammer nail, you can use a drill bit if you want to, but make sure that the hole is small so that way it'll clamp down on your wick properly. But we found that this works best just to heat up the tip. It makes it very smooth finished. So when I do thread my wick through, which I used a peaches and cream yarn, and I just used a needle with a little bit of thread to thread that right through that hole. Works great. Next thing I used is I tied a knot in the bottom of my peaches and cream yarn, and then used rubber cement. And what that does is it seals the hole up so no wax leaks out the bottom or anything like that. And that makes a nice sealable hole right there, and that will anchor my wick to the bottom of my candle. Next off, you had to pick up some PVC pipe. So however you cut it, you want to make sure that it's at a 90-degree angle. I got that right, guys. So the flatter and smoother your bottom of your candle is, the more likely your candle will be straight up and down. You can check your work with a level, and that will help make it so that everything stays nice and straight, because you don't want a candle that's tipping over. Fire hazard. So be mindful of that. When you attach your PVC pipe to your plate, what I like to do is I took the end of my brush and just brushed from the inside out. Very careful not to get any glue on the inside lining, because that will be touching the candle and it could damage the outside of it in some way. And you really don't want any kind of flaws and stuff like that in your candle. So once you get the rubber cement on there, you can take a clothespin like I have here, make sure you thread it all the way through, so that way it's weighted and you can pull the wick all the way up to the top. Make sure your wick is centered before you mount your PVC pipe to your plate. That will make sure that your wick is straight down the center, the whole width of the candle. The whole length of it, I should say. When I was done mounting that, I took a little bit extra, rubbed it around the outside to make sure there was a nice smooth seal on the outside, to make sure there were no leaks coming out this way. And at the end of that, once you get all that stuff done, then you just kind of let it dry. You can take a popsicle stick like I have here in order to cross the top, and it'll just dry like that, and then my molds will be set. So the wicks are all centered, and you want to make sure that they are as centered as you can possibly get them. I did run my spoon up and down the wick just a little bit to make sure that the wax was all the way up, even though the wax is below where the wick is going to be. You want to still have your wick primed. I did not do that because it's so much easier to just thread it through like I showed you. So I find that after I get my wax poured, that I just take my spoon and just kind of run it up and down the wick and just pour some of the wax that's inside my PVC pipe just kind of down the wick, so that way it kind of primes it there. And then I'll have no problem with lighting it later. So you want to make sure that you do that because the wick's got to pull from somewhere. So I've got it down. I did just pour it up to a certain point because I want to have room at the top, just like here. I don't want it indenting or touching the top of my candle eventually. Now I poured this wax. It was still fairly hot, so I'll have some sinkholes, but I'll be doing a second pour and then using a heat gun to make sure that the tops and the bottoms are absolutely flat, and that will produce a very nice candle later on. So if you guys want to watch a full video on how to make candles, you'll have to watch my other video series talking about how to size your wicks properly and all that other good jazz, where you don't blow up a candle like 10 different ways that I discovered you can. So make sure you watch that, and I'll probably put that in the video description. As you can see, this one has a sinkhole in it because I did pour the wax too hot. I did have to punch a further hole in there because I could kind of tell that that bottom layer was a little bit transparent, which usually means that I've got a sinkhole further down underneath of it. You want to make sure that it's got access all the way down as far as you can get it. So when you do your add back, the hot wax will go down inside there and fill that all the way up, because you do want that and to be as solid all the way through as you can possibly get it. So make sure that you check, especially when you have a tall Pilar candle like this, and same thing here, and do the same thing. So definitely make sure you check for that kind of stuff because that is important. So I will be doing the add back, and I will be filling it up to just about where the mound starts to curve over, right about there. And then I'll let these cure for a few more hours, and then I'll flatten the tops and the bottom with a heat gun, and I'll show you how to do that. But I just want to make sure that you guys saw this and made sure that if you were doing this method, to punch a hole in the bottom to make sure you check so that your add back or your second pour, or how many pours you may need to do, 'cause some of them you may need to do several pours, especially if you have a real wide based candle. So make sure you check for that. Do more pours if you need to, or do one better and pour it at a cooler temperature, like right about where the wax starts to solidify on the side of a jar or your container that you're melting your wax in, and that should help a lot with avoiding a lot of these sinkholes. Hello, we're back with a final video. I think this is final. I don't think I'm going to show how I'm going to decorate these, but I'm going to show you how I unmold these. So this I already pre-did, but you want to give your mold a good twist, and then you'll just pull it towards you, and that will break the end that you knotted. As you can see how yucky the bottom of that is. I didn't really do a good job of pulling off all the rubber cement, but that's alright on there. I'll be doing that in a cleanup process, but that is what the bottom of your candle is going to look like. Now, I had someone ask me why I put black tape on the bottom, and this is because this edge, before we pre-measured the top, was the smoothest and cleanest edge, and was most accurate. You want to make sure that you put that side on the bottom, because whatever levelability your bottom is, your top will do the same thing. So it's not quite as important to get the top part as flat as you can, but it definitely is for the bottom. So whatever's your flattest side, use that. Mark that, keep it at the bottom of your mold at all times. So flatten the top with the heat gun, and this is just what I've got left. I will use a heat gun again on the bottom of this to make it a little bit smoother and more refined. This wax had a little bit more issue coming out of the mold, so I just used, well, this thing. And it just happened to slide right down in there. So flip it upside down. There you go, and your candle pops out just like it has here. So that's how I unmold these. So you remember what the candles looked like when we first started out, and here they are now. So the wax has been remelted, it's been strained, it's been cleaned, it's been recasted in our PVC pipe molds. So all I did here was took some jute twine and did a slip knot around it and tied that off and wrapped it around a few times. Made a bow out of that jute twine, put some seashells on the sides of it. And as you can tell, looks like a really nice 3-pillar candle set. So this is going to make a really awesome gift. I'm really excited about how it turned out. We are going to enjoy this for quite a while longer. So it's pretty cool when you can restore old things that you have around the house. So I wanted to share this with you guys. I hope you found this video helpful, and maybe you can subscribe and we'll show you how to do some more cool stuff just like this one. Alright, see you later. Have a good one.